we officially start. So I'll just begin by saying Monday Night Reading is an event that we started because, oh, Kara. Hi, Kara Puppet. Yeah. I would take up 20 minutes saying hi to everybody, so we're not going to do that. Monday Night Reading is an event we started because nonfiction authors do not get a lot of opportunities to do readings for their books, especially books on leadership, business, that type of thing, motivational, self-help. So we thought we would change that. Tonight, we are so thrilled to welcome Margaret Andrews, and author of Hold 'em Up If You Got 'em, Manage Yourself, Lead Others. Let's see. I know we've got multiple copies at the watch party. Mine's back in my office at the lake, or I would be holding it up right this second. Um, so that book came out, was it just last week?
Yeah, it was Tuesday the 16th. Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like a lifetime ago?
Yeah, it does. It does feel like a very long time ago.
Yeah. So on Monday Night Reading, I will ask Margaret a few questions. She's going to read from her book. And then at the last 10 minutes, we want you to stay for the whole time because for the last 10 minutes, we're going to do something so really important for Margaret. And so I hope that you will stick around for the end of that. I also want to point out that when we have these Monday night readings, we only have positive things to say. That's all we have. So in the chat, you will see some of the people who are old hats at Monday Night Readings leaving comments, things that resonate with them, lines that they like. We give the chat to the author, which is really special. All of those should be positive because it's Monday Night Reading. Okay, so Laura Stone, I don't see you in my Brady Bunch, but I know you're here. You ready to rock?
I am. I would love to introduce. I mean, I don't think that you need an introduction, but I'd be happy to share with everybody all the wonderful accomplishments. Margaret Andrews. Her story begins as a student at the University of California, Berkeley, and as an accountant at Deloitte. But she's held a variety of senior management positions and has taught, spoken, and consulted across the globe. She creates and teaches a variety of courses and professional and executive programs at Harvard's Division of Continuing Education, including Managing Yourself and Leading Others, Milo, Understanding and Evolving Culture, Emotional Intelligence and Leadership, Strategic Leadership, and It Depends, Unpacking the Problems and Paradoxes of Leadership. She's also the founder of the Milo Center, a private leadership development firm. Margaret's held a variety of positions in business and in higher education, including associate degree at Harvard University's Division of Continuing Education, vice provost at the Holt International Business School, and executive director of the MBA program, alumni relations, and marketing at the MIT Sloan School of Management. But prior to her career in higher education, she held positions as vice president of marketing at Putnam Investments, consultant at Mercer Management Consulting, now Oliver Wyman, and as a CPA at Deloitte & Touche. She hails from California with an undergraduate degree from the University of California at Berkeley and earned her graduate degree at the MIT Sloan School of Management, where she was named a Seeley Scholar, the school's highest honor. In all of her work, Margaret combines the best of business and academia to help executives and high-achieving professionals transform their leadership practice, which, by extension, can change the world. I'll leave ways for you to connect with Margaret in the chat, and I leave it to you, AJ.
So I'm AJ. Thank you, Laura. That was wonderful. I'm AJ Harper. Please do look at the chat. We'll be sharing ways that you can support Margaret today, connect with Margaret. We'd love for you, if it fits your budget, to pick up a copy of the book today. It's really, really helpful to get a little bump in the sales. And please let us know if you did pick it up. We'd love to say thank you. Okay, Margaret. So I think you're ready and you know this drill. For whom did you write this book?
Okay, so I wrote this book for what I'll say are talented, hardworking, and well-intentioned managers who feel increasingly overwhelmed and lacking as they've taken on more leadership responsibilities. They've been successful in their career to date, yet have become less effective than in the past and are not sure what to do about it. They know they're capable of much more, but can't figure out how to get their confidence and courage back and break through to the next level of leadership. These readers seek more leadership know-how, but may not realize the real problem lies in being encumbered by many ideas on how one should lead that are untrue and serve only to make them less effective and increasingly distant from the leader they're capable of being.
Okay. And what is your core message in this book?
My core message is pretty much the name of the book, which is Managing Yourself Comes Before Leading Others, or subtitle would be Intelligence, Hard Work, and Good Intentions Aren't Enough.
Yeah. And your promise to readers.
Promise is that by the end of the book, you will understand what it takes to become the leader you want to be and the leader that only you can be. And if you do the exercises, you'll have a roadmap for becoming that leader.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. So I'm really curious. I don't think I ever asked you to back up a little bit before the class you teach and what got you interested in doing this type of work.
Yeah. So I really didn't necessarily have the intention of writing a book or even teaching a class, but it kind of came up. I will say that I had my own issues with leadership, and so I did some research to figure out how can I become better. And it turned out that this is the core message, that it is about understanding and managing yourself. And so as I implemented it on myself, right? You're always your first test case. It made a difference. And so then I started telling other people about it, and they thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then the idea for a class came. And I will say, you've all seen the movie Alien, where the alien just bursts out of that person's chest, and I feel like that class kind of burst out from me. It just had to be born. But the book was never part of it, but that just came later.
So tell me about the class. This is, by the way, y'all, most popular executive leadership program, often waitlisted. So tell me about why do you think it's waitlisted? Why do you think this is the most popular class?
I think actually it's because of the title of it. The book's title is Manage Yourself to Lead Others. The name of the class is Managing Yourself and Leading Others. And I think the reason why it's popular is because when anyone hears the title, they know immediately what it's about. And
Mm.
I usually, when I tell people, I get one of two responses like, oh, that's really interesting. I want to take that class. But the other one is, oh, that's really interesting. I wish my boss would take that class.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of both, but everybody gets what it is.
How many years have you been teaching the class?
18,
Wow.
18 years, which is shocking. I went back actually not all that long ago and I looked at the slides, that I used for the first class, and I had to laugh at how horrible they were. But when I looked at the syllabus, I realized the arc of the class has not changed at all. That it's still really the same message, but using, obviously different slides, different examples, etc. So I keep changing it all the time because things change.
And what does it mean to you now to have the book that's,
Ah,
based on the class? How does that feel?
odd. I don't know. I can't really put into words what it means. It was very nice to hold it and to realize, wow, this is the culmination of an awful lot of work. So yeah, pretty cool, I guess I'd say. But I still don't fully talk about it. Like, a lot of people still don't know about it. But I'm working on that.
Do you think you'll reference it in your class? Will you t turn to this chapter?
So in the class itself, which is the like a 15, 16 week class, I put it as an optional, right? Because essentially they're getting what is in the book, so they don't necessarily have to read it. In fact, they will hear some of the same stories that are in the book. But in the executive program, we do give it to them. We do
Okay.
give it to them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Margaret, I'm ready for your first excerpt. Will you set it up for us? What are we listening to?
You are going to listen to the opening story, which
Okay.
is from the introduction.
Okay.
It's the start of the whole thing. So it says James raised his hand the first time he'd done so during the 2-day executive program. As his hand went up, we were nearing the end of a case discussion about Ron Ventura, a gifted neurosurgeon with terrible interpersonal skills. Taking the perspective of his boss, a hospital administrator, the discussion focused on what to do about this talented employee who performed his job flawlessly and whose talents had enhanced the reputation of the hospital and increased the number of patients seeking care there. However, this same surgeon was creating havoc in the operating theater and throughout the organization, barking orders, bullying and intimidating others, and generally running roughshod through the organization. During Dr. Ventura's short tenure in the organization, the hospital had reaped the benefit of his surgical skill in the form of increased revenue and profits. However, the hospital had also paid a price for the doctor's behavior in the form of higher employee turnover, the fraying of a team based culture, plummeting morale, and a potential lawsuit. From the perspective of his boss, we in the class were discussing whether we should retain Dr. Ventura and try to coach him to preserve the benefits of his surgical skills and revenue generating potential, or terminate his employment because he was driving strong players out of the organization and creating a toxic work culture for those who remained. It was an intense discussion with impassioned and strong arguments on both sides of the discussion. That's when I noticed James' raised hand. I'm Dr. Ventura, said James from the back row. Everyone in the room heard his comment and silently, in unison, turned toward his voice. He held the room. Not the real Dr. Ventura, of course, because I'm not a vascular surgeon, he said with a half smile. I'm an engineer. But the rest of the case might just as easily have been written about me. I'm a really good engineer, but like Dr. Ventura, I've been an awful manager and teammate. In fact, that's why I'm here in this program. I need to learn to become a better leader. If I don't, I'm likely to be fired. Reading this case and listening to the discussion has been eye-opening because now I understand what my behaviors look like to others. And honestly, I'm horrified by what that looks like. I was recently passed over for a promotion, and now I understand why. In every class and executive program I've taught and every audience I've spoken to, there are people like James. Their backgrounds, successes, and setbacks are different, but many share a common theme. What has worked for them in their career is no longer working. Something isn't right. They worked hard and had success, but currently they feel adrift, restless, stuck, spinning their wheels, sidelined, passed over, frustrated. These are the words that many people share with me in private, but James had the courage to express them out loud. They resonated with almost everyone in the room. James's situation, although it may have felt unique to him, is fairly common among smart, ambitious, career-focused managers. We have energy, drive, and a strong work ethic that made us successful in our early careers. As we moved into higher levels of management, however, that work ethic, drive, and willingness to do whatever it takes to succeed suddenly weren't enough. The definition of doing great work has shifted dramatically because our work is increasingly done with and through other people. That's a different game with different rules, and not everyone gets a trophy. Many business professionals, technical experts, and military, government, and not for profit leaders tell me they are very good at what they do. But now that they're leading more people, they feel out of their depth. It's a new way of working, and the stakes are significantly higher. Their education and training focused on the hard skills needed to excel in their work. And now that they're running the project team, lab, unit, or company, they realize that they need a different set of skills. No longer can they just rely on their intelligence, drive, and good intentions. They know that they need leadership know-how, but they oftentimes don't realize they need something else. When we find our wheels spinning, our old ways of working not working, it makes sense to learn more about leadership. However, much of what people seek to learn relates to best practices and tips on such topics as increasing productivity, managing time, running a meeting, negotiating a deal, setting priorities, or developing executive presence. These best practices and tips can be very helpful and may give us comfort in thinking there is a right way to lead, but they are incomplete because they don't go deep enough. A similar approach is to look for the silver bullet, the right way, or the right answer. There isn't a silver bullet, a right way, or a single right answer. There comes a point in our career where what we've done in the past is no longer working. We need a new approach. Here's the truth. Talent, expertise, hard work, and good intentions are not enough. Powerful, compelling, sustainable leadership begins with understanding and managing ourselves. It's an inside out proposition. Managing ourselves comes before leading others.
Yay. I love it. So this brings up an interesting question I wanted to ask you, which is how do you define leader?
Mm. So I think of leadership in a very broad and I'm going to say high level sense. It is someone that leads individuals and groups of individuals toward a better future. Uh,
Hmm.
I think a lot of times in business we say, toward an objective or to reach a goal. But I actually think, well, why would you have those objectives or those goals, right? You think that the what's on the other side is a better future. So I think that's really what it is, and it speaks to well beyond business.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What have you experienced? You've had 18 years with the class. In what ways have you seen it move beyond business?
Oh, it was always actually intended to. And what's interesting is, and I'll say this for both the class as well as the executive program, is it's so oftentimes people will come into the class or the program and say, "Well, I'm in the military, so it's so different," or "I work in this not-for-profit and not for it's so different." And then, you're talking to people in the class and everybody realizes, "Oh, you know what? It's actually not that different. We have the same problems." And so that's where I think some of the learning comes is with everybody in the class talking about their problems and realizing you have that problem too. Oh, I thought it was just me. No, 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 it's all of us.
I think we have a question. Do you have a question, Sangeeta?
Yes, Margaret, you said it was wonderful to hear that, of course, the arc of the class has staying the same, but the set of slides for the first time was like so different from the set of slides you use now. What I want to ask is, what about the students you've had? Has their personality, has their reactions changed over time, especially post-COVID?
Great question.
No, in truth, I don't think so. I think that many of the discussions that we have are very similar. I think that one of the things that so I would say this the folks that we get in, I remember in the first class, um what there was a medical doctor in there. She was just finishing up her residency, and ended up being one of the endorsers of the book, right? Because she and I always just stayed in touch and things like that. And there were people from not-for-profits and business and consulting and all of those things, and we still get the same. So I think the one thing that I would say that has kind of changed about the class is that I've gotten better at building psychological safety in the classroom where people feel absolutely safe that they can talk about anything. And, I always joke that we have to wait for the first person to go vulnerable, right? Because once they do it, everybody else does. And then you start having really, really different conversations, the better conversations. So, and if the class is slow, I do it, right? So, but I would say the arc is the same, and really, truly, the discussions are the same. But the more people feel comfortable with each other, that we may disagree, so if I'm sitting next to Peter in a class and we get to know each other, and then when Peter voices some opinion that I disagree with, I don't think he's a jerk, right? I just realize he just has a different point of view than I do. And so that's kind of what we're going for.
I love that. So you have a second excerpt. Will you set that up for us?
Sure. So this is what I think oftentimes gets in the way about. So I talk first in the book about understanding ourselves, and I have a lot of stuff in the book about that, a lot of exercises, and then we get to managing ourselves, right? So what I don't say exactly in the book is if you think understanding yourself is hard, just wait till you get to managing yourself, because that's actually really harder. So I talk about, a couple of things that get in the way. So it says there are two important challenges in self management that can make it difficult for us to evolve toward the transformational impact we seek. The first is our fear of vulnerability. The second is our understanding a concept and how to implement that concept, but not actually following through on that implementation, also known as the knowing doing gap. So, first one is fear of vulnerability. Working on new behaviors can be hard and make us feel vulnerable. feeling that most of us do not enjoy. Our anxieties, fear of looking foolish, and fear of failure are often what hold us back from engaging with new behaviors. Change, including learning a new behavior, is hard for most people because it pushes us out of our comfort zone. However, our growth begins only once we step outside of our comfort zone. And as we discussed in chapter 2 with S curves, many people abandon learning new behaviors because of feeling vulnerable when they make mistakes and instead double down on what made them successful, like intelligence, hard work, and hard skills. But this doesn't bring them to the next level. When learning new skills, we will often be outside of our comfort zone, and it's this zone of discomfort where our growth happens. Marion Poiré, a senior executive for a global financial services firm in Australia, has, as she told me, become addicted to becoming uncomfortable. She wasn't always this way, though. She says, I'm someone who enjoys one on one interactions and used to really dislike giving speeches. But several years ago, I joined a local board for people working in financial services, and part of my role was doing presentations and emceeing events. In the beginning, it was nerve wracking to put myself out there. But over time, I not only got used to doing these things, I actually got to be good at them. And the more I did these things, the more confident I became. And after a few years of this, it was time to take on a new challenge. So I decided to move out of my comfort zone yet again by joining a board of the CFA Society of New South Wales, which was mostly made up of C suite executives. I was often uncomfortable as I found my point of view frequently differed. And once I accepted this as a good thing, I embraced it and was, I believe, appreciated more because of it. It was from these experiences, really pushing myself to do things that were outside my comfort zone, that I learned I actually enjoyed getting uncomfortable. It means I'm learning something new and it's quite exciting. If I'm not uncomfortable, it means I'm not pushing myself, not learning, not growing. And since I like to learn and continue to grow, I've learned to embrace this discomfort. The second one is on knowing doing gap. The hard part isn't knowing what to do, it's doing it. Although Bad Mood Beth likely knew that she shouldn't treat people the way she does on those bad mood days, she can't manage herself well enough to enact what she knows, which is a great example of the knowing doing gap. When we know something yet don't do it. We don't get credit for knowing we should think before we speak. We get credit for thinking before we speak. We don't get credit for knowing we should take care of ourselves, including eating well, sleeping well, and moving more to show up as the leader we want to be. We get credit for doing these things and showing up as that leader. Knowing what to do is easy, doing it is hard. Managing ourselves goes beyond knowing what we should do to actually applying what we know. Researchers have found that working to bridge the gap between what we know about leadership and how we behave leads to more positive emotions such as relief, satisfaction, happiness, and pride. Learning new behaviors and skills also increases our self efficacy, our belief that we have the capacity to solve difficult problems. Solving one problem or mastering a new skill or behavior gives us confidence that we can solve other problems or master other new skills and behaviors.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I want to talk about in your book, you talk about the layers of effective leadership, and you just sort of discussed it a little bit when you talked about the way the book is structured. But can you share with us what you mean by the layers of effective leadership?
Yeah, so actually, it was one of the advanced readers who kind of led me to show that because when she read and I don't think Gina's here, it's very late in Europe where she is, but she said when she read it, she said, I kind of lost where I was, I wasn't sure where you were, and she said, you always talk about, I call them the nested dolls, right? Of these different layers. And she said, why don't you use that? And I thought, oh my gosh, what a great idea. So that's how it ended up in the book. But really the idea is that the first layer is understanding and managing yourself, right? That's the heart of the whole thing. From there, you can understand other people. So when we understand ourselves, we realize that we are different from others. And that helps us to understand that other people are different from us. And that if we can't manage ourselves, we have no moral authority to ask anyone else to manage themselves. So it's this layer. So it's understanding and managing yourself. Then it goes to understanding and developing other people so they can become the leader only they can become. Then it's about understanding the context of leadership, and two parts to that. One is understanding organizational culture and what you can change and what you can't change. And it's really not that there are good cultures or bad cultures, but some cultures are better than for you than others, right? So they may be good or bad for you. And then also the chapter on, making decisions. But a lot of the decisions, to make better decisions, you have to understand yourself. What are your values? Because very oftentimes, if we don't consider those values, we make a decision that we come to later regret. And then the last part is, leading for the long term, which is, but the through line on the whole thing is understanding and managing yourself.
So, as a reminder, there's some people who just joined in the last 10 minutes or so. We would love if you would support Margaret and get your copy of her book tonight, if you can, if it fits your budget. Maybe you know someone who needs this book. I'm sure you do. And Laura will put a link, there it is, right in the chat, for you to purchase it. And we thank everybody who has purchased it. We've been trying to thank in the chat. Let us know if you do pick up a copy. We want to express our gratitude. Uh, if anybody has a question, by the way, feel free to raise your hand if you've got one. We will absolutely make time for it. So your third excerpt, Margaret, what you got?
Uh, so this is when I talk about understanding how people are different from you. So just as we are distinct individuals, so is each one of the people who work with and for us. One of the best lessons I've learned about leadership came from having children. I have three of them, two boys and a girl. And prior to having my own, I'd spent very little time around kids. So I had no idea what I was doing when my first son was born. I had to learn everything about caring for an infant, including how to hold, feed, and clean him. But more importantly, I had to learn about him as an individual. It was a steep learning curve for me. So when our second son arrived, I thought I had this parenting thing all figured out. But no, my second son was completely different from my first son. He had his own way of being, his own likes and dislikes, his own moods, and I had to learn to relate to him as a distinct individual, someone very different from his brother. Then my daughter came along, and I thought for sure now I know something about raising kids. But no, once again, this child was unlike the others, and I had to learn to relate to her as the unique individual she is. It shocked me how different each of them is because they have the same parents and were raised in the same household. It was this experience that gave me real insight into the nature of leadership and changed the way I approached it. If my own children don't think and behave in the same way, why would I ever expect a collection of diverse individuals at work to be similar in how they think and behave? Each person we work with is a unique individual, just like each one of our children or siblings, and just like us. Ed Catmull, co founder of Pixar and former president of Walt Disney Animation, expressed a similar thought in his best selling book, Creativity Inc. Catmull discusses leadership as a process that involves thinking creatively, not only about business problems, but also about the people solving those problems. He says, I can think of only one thing to compare it to: raising children. To do either job well requires us to dig deeply within ourselves. It also helps us to get to know each of our employees as the individuals they are. Just as understanding ourselves is the foundation of effective leadership, understanding the people we work with is the foundation of leading them. It's the basis for helping them to develop toward the leader only they can be. This benefits the individual, the team, and the organization in both the short term and the long term. It also benefits you and your reputation for developing others, which can also help your career. Adrian, who was a senior vice president of marketing for a large mutual fund company, told me that one of my favorite aspects of my work is helping my staff discover and develop their talents. And when I think they've grown as much as they can in my organization, I help them find a new challenge somewhere else in the firm. When I asked her if she was upset that people she had spent so much time and effort developing ended up moving on, she smiled and told me, not at all. It means that I have friends all over the organization. So when I need to get something done outside my group, I can often just pick up the phone and call one of my well-placed former team members and to help me find the right person to talk to or to figure out how to remove an obstacle. I hadn't realized it at first, but investing in my people, which I did because I enjoyed it, actually had the secondary effect of paying career long dividends for me.
Oh, we have a question from, Hey, Heather. How you doing, Heather?
Hey, Heather.
Good. I'm good. Happy to be here. Hi, Margaret. Good to see you. I have a question. Yes, my question is this, Margaret. With the being a writer and writing this book, what did you just like love about writing this book? And how did you even capitalize on that further so you loved it even more?
Mhm.
And then the opposite side of the second side of the same coin is what did you struggle with, or what did you find to be a slog or just difficult? And how did you navigate through that difficulty? So, what did you love, and what did you hate, to say
Yeah.
it very bluntly?
I'm going to weave those two together. But I would say, I think what I learned was that I don't really like writing, but I like editing. And that was a big thing for me. So staring at a blank page was really hard. And I would get stuck sometimes. And then I would hear Laura Stone whispering in my ear saying, when you get stuck, just finish this sentence. What I really mean to say is, and that helped me through an awful lot of things. But I would outline it and then I would try to write from that outline and I would, edit it. And I have to say, I got halfway through at one point and I just trashed the entire thing. Because haven't you ever had something where you edit it to death? And that was what I felt I had done. And I just thought, I can't look at this again. So of course I didn't really trash it, right? I moved it from one file into another file in my computer in case I ever needed it, which I never went back to because I realized that all the good stuff was still in my head, but I kind of got to do it again, right? So I felt like the second one was a lot easier. So writing is hard. Editing was a whole lot more fun, I'd say.
So one of my questions I always ask is what's surprising about your author journey? What didn't you expect?
Oh gosh, I guess on one was that it took so long, right? Which is my own damn fault. But I think the other thing that was so surprising was how helpful so many people were. That the writing community was really, really important for me in my journey. It was a source of both inspiration and accountability. But also, when I asked people if I could interview them, almost everybody said yes. Some people said change my name. Some people said change a lot of things about me because this is a great story, but I don't want anyone to ever figure out that it was me. So we made a lot of changes on that. But, almost everybody I asked to be an advanced reader said yes. Almost everybody I asked to be on the street team said yes. So I was surprised so pleasantly by that.
Do you think you'll write another one?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I've thought about it. I thought maybe my next one will be on followership, or something of, why do we follow certain leaders? But I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about a few things, but I think I'm gonna take a break before thinking about that.
We got another question from, oh, by the way, before you say that, a lot of people tell me that in this community that they were probably not going to write another one or they need time to think about it. And then pretty soon we just see them show up with a new set of fundamentals and an outline and ready to rock. So just saying.
Yeah.
A question from Maeve. Did you use AI at any time as part of the process?
I didn't. Actually, no, I take that back. I needed to brainstorm some titles because the title of the class is managing yourself and leading others. And the editor said, great name for a class, not a good name for the book. And so, they came up with a bunch of different ones, and I didn't like any of them. And I wanted to keep the same acronym, the MYLO. So I did use AI for, and I didn't use any of the ones that I found it just frustrating, to be honest.
I usually find it frustrating if I'm presented with it myself. Um, so I also want to talk to you about, the change you want to see in the world. That's my big question. And then we're going to do something for Margaret when we're done. But does anybody have other questions about authorship, leadership, the class at Harvard, what's next for Margaret? Anything that you are dying to ask her because this is the time right now? Okay. I forgot if you have one more excerpt.
I do if we had time, but I also don't
We,
have to.
no, we have time, and then I'm going to ask my big question, and then we're gonna do
Okay.
our amazing thing for Margaret.
All right.
Will you set
So,
up this excerpt for us and give us
yeah, this
context?
is the final chapter, and it's called The Long View. Um, Claire, the VP of Finance for a sports network in Southern California, told me a story, and we came to different conclusions about the moral of the story. As Claire told me, she had a great job in the entertainment industry, but the long workdays and multi-hour commute were arduous. I had to pack and bring 3 meals with me each day: breakfast to eat in the car, lunch to eat at my desk because I was too busy to go out for lunch, and then dinner to also eat at my desk because I would get home very late, well past dinner time. Her schedule was not only difficult, but also becoming unsustainable. Claire's father had recently passed away. Her mother needed help. Her husband also had a demanding job and was beginning to travel more frequently, and they had a 10-year-old daughter. I liked the work I did and the team I'd built over the years, but I just couldn't do it anymore. She told me something had to change. There were 2 major corporations within a half-hour drive of her home, and because she had in-demand skills and former managers and coworkers who gave her very strong recommendations, she quickly found a position at one of them. Although the new job was minutes from her home and gave her more personal time, it also left a lot to be desired on the professional front. She told me the job was dull and the office environment was more conservative and quiet than a bank and a library combined. On top of this, her boss was verbally abusive. The job and the company were a bad fit for me from the start, but because I really needed to be closer to home, I kept it for several years and was becoming more and more miserable. A friend of Claire's from a previous job had another friend who had taken on a new CFO position for a startup and was looking for a controller. He asked Claire's friend if she knew anyone that would be a good for this position. Yep, said her friend, and she's currently working right across the street from you. Claire took that job and it became, as she called it, her on the job MBA, where she learned about every functional area in the organization. It was a startup that needed to get to profitability, so I went into my usual little engine that could mode. Claire got the company through an intensive audit, let go of a few people on her team who were not performing, helped to find and execute strategy, and took over her boss's role when he was let go soon after her arrival. But then the HR director left, and the CEO decided to put that function under me. So now I was the HR director on top of everything else. I know nothing about that role and realized that my number one priority was filling that job. So I went to my computer and put the position into multiple job boards and then emailed everyone I knew asking if they knew of a good person for this role. Recommendations poured in. I was really surprised by how many people sent me recommendations, Claire said. The position was filled in less than a month and she could return to her other roles. As Claire finished telling me this story, she said, so I guess the lesson I learned from these experiences is that you cannot predict anything. Sometimes you just have to keep your head down and keep going, and it might all work out. I laughed and told her that I heard a very different lesson. I learned that how well you work with people is very important in your career. I heard how the people she had worked with, supported, and developed throughout her career were there to support her. She then laughed and told me, oh, I didn't really consider that. I think when you work closely with people, you really get to know them, and then your colleagues become your friends. I've known Claire for several decades and can attest to her being smart, hardworking, conscientious, and well intentioned. She's also one of the kindest, most generous people on the planet. So it's no surprise that anyone she'd previously worked with would mention her name as a great person to hire, or if they received an email from her, would not only open the email, but would do what they could to help. That is the compound effect of understanding and managing yourself, as well as leading others effectively over a long period of time. People trust you, they want to help, they'll connect you with opportunities, they'll lift you up. There's nothing stopping any of us from understanding and managing ourselves and leading others well. Nothing, perhaps, but our own fear. Our fear of making a change, our fear of being different, our fear of being the best possible version of ourselves.
Love it. I love that message at the end. Okay. This is my favorite question to ask. And I start classes with this, and so this comes full circle. What is a change you want to see in the world through this book that now exists?
So I would like to improve the craft of leadership. I believe that we spend a lot of time at work and a lot of time when we're not at work thinking about work. And if you have a great boss, you are excited about thinking about it. If you have a bad boss, you're not, and it can really ruin your life. And I believe that if we could improve leadership just a little bit across the board, it would have a massive positive impact on the world. And by taking that down a level, if we all understood ourselves a little bit better, we would have better leaders.
Very, very well said. We are so proud of you, Margaret, for this major accomplishment in finishing the book. You are absolutely welcome to hang while we do this next thing, and most people do. Everybody, we are going to do something for Margaret now. One of the most important things that you can do for an author is to leave a review. I know some of you already did, so we understand if you, I know you did, MH, right before you came. Thank you so much. And an Amazon review, to be clear. Now, a few notes, okay? You do not have to have purchased it on Amazon to leave a review, so you can still leave it. Number two, you do not have to write a critical review. This is not the New York Times. If you aren't sure what to put because maybe you haven't read it yet, here is the really good news. Scroll up this chat, look at some of the messages that people left about what resonated with them, and borrow it. You can come back at a later time. It's a little known fact. You can edit reviews. So let's get the reviews done today. We are going to leave no less than 4 stars. If you are feeling compelled to leave less than 4 stars, you can pass on this exercise. So we want to leave at least 4 stars. I prefer 5. It's your choice. Do your thing. Please leave a review too. We're going to do it all in tandem tonight. There's a link in the chat. We do this as a group. If you're wondering what to write, here's some other ideas. You can go to the Amazon listing and you can pull something from the one of the many endorsements that Margaret got. You can pull something from the book description. And remember, you can edit this later. If you need the link again, we can put it in the chat again. Uh, anyway, this is one of the most valuable things that you can do for authors. All right, everybody, let me know you. Okay, Kristen, done. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Listen, Margaret, it is always a profound pleasure to welcome authors to their own Monday night reading. You've also supported so many authors in showing up to their Monday night readings, and I'm so glad to for you to have a wonderful showing here tonight. You deserve all the accolades, support, and praise, and I'm just honored to have been part of that process with you. And congratulations on a
Thank you.
wonderful
Thank you
book.
for hosting this, and thank you to everybody who came and who contributed in so many different ways. So really delightful and very humbling. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, everyone. We thank you so much for coming. Remember that Monday night we have Katie Killerwood's reading, and on we go through our season. Have a good night, everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.